8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and welcome to the Lobster Fight.
Welcome back, lobsters. Oh, now we just completely switched around, didn't we?
Gotta love that. Guys, listen, welcome to the 11th episode of this Lobster Fight installment. Today we have something special cooking up for you, and I have not been cooking any of it. So, Sean, enlighten us.
Welcome to this week's special, I would like to call it. It is Ask Fred. So we've asked all of you guys on Instagram and other social media platforms to ask us questions, to specifically ask Fred. And we've kicked Fred out of our Instagram account, so he has not actually been able to see any of the questions that all of you guys have asked. And there have been quite a few questions, and all of them are very, very interesting. So I think let's take this as an opportunity to really get to know one of our hosts.
Exactly. I'm excited, actually.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm not too nervous, actually. I'm just excited. I am really thankful that people took the time to ask even questions. And that's, for me, is the coolest part, because we've set out on this mission with the podcast, obviously, to talk about personal development, talk about our daily lives, what we encounter on a daily basis. Spoken now with 2-3 guests already. Had lots of fun with it. And but we haven't really gone in depth with who we are.
With ourselves.
No. And we just pulled a card, and I was the first one, guys. So here we are.
All right, to start it off with, I would like to just kind of get into the flow.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll ask you a couple quick questions. Don't think too much about it, and you just say whatever comes to mind. It'll be one or the other.
Okay, I like that.
So just to get ready.
Yeah.
Right then. Do you prefer sweet or savory foods?
Sweet.
Interesting. Running or gymming?
Gymming.
Night out or night in?
Night out.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Porsche or Ferrari?
Porsche.
Mountain or beaches?
I'm going to say mountains.
Oh. Mornings or evenings?
Mornings.
All right.
So that doesn't really add up with the night out and then mornings, does it?
Well, the thing is, if you stay out until the morning, it does kind of...
Correct, monsieur.
It's all about when you start your morning.
Exactly.
Or if you just start on the night out.
Yeah. That's a long day.
And as we do know that you're in a very efficient napper, you can take those as your night sleep.
I can very much. You're right. Sorry I interrupted the bursts here.
All right. So let's get kind of into it. One of our first questions that we received from our valued losers,
listeners, guys, listen
yes.
and listen well. It was listeners.
Yeah, listeners. What are 3 values you try to live by in your everyday life?
Wow, that's a great start. That is a great start. 3 values that I try to live by is being honest. That's the first that comes to mind. Trustworthy. The second one. People can sort of count on me. And then I would say happiness.
Happiness, I like it.
Yeah, because I think those 3, that's the first 3 that just come to mind right now. It's how I like to go about my everyday. It's to make sure to bring those 3 values, because I feel that they together sort of explains me as a person quite well.
Yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that you're a very, very happy person. The energy you kind of radiate is very impactful to a lot of people. Like every time they see you, they automatically become happier. And that also then kind of brings up another question, that have you ever been sad? Or what was a situation where you were sad, and why were you sad? Because oftentimes we don't really see sad Fred.
No.
There's never a day where we get to see a bad day.
That's a great question. And to be honest, on my everyday, let's say, basis, I am a very happy person. And I've always probably been very, very happy. But I think just due to certain life circumstances, things I went through, I I think I just probably appreciate more just the everyday. If I were to, let's say, elaborate on that topic a little bit, it's a topic pretty close to me, in fact. But I think it's cool to chat about. It's cool, because it certainly has, if not changed me, made me more appreciative. So about like probably 5-6 years ago, I had this really terrible experience with my girlfriend at the time, where we were basically in a very innocent public space of a gas station. And wow, we're really getting straight onto the topics here, but it's cool.
Mhm.
It's cool. Anyway, yes, very innocent situation that turned really ugly pretty quickly. We were just out buying candy actually at the time, and basically what happened was that this weird freak just had some weird thoughts in his head. And at the time he was at this gas station, random place, and basically we were sort of assaulted by this guy, and in a quite an impactful way, let's say. We were it's sort of a horror movie scene you imagine yourself being stuck in, that I had to experience and endure. Was um, basically just being sort of attacked in a way by a man with an axe.
Wow.
And this experience was really something that was really impactful, because we're both very fortunate to get away from this episode in good condition. And it left me scarred, obviously, physically, as I was in this position against a man with, let's say, a weapon of some sort, right? And so when you're unarmed in that situation, what you do what you can, really. And fortunately, it was enough for me to get out of that situation with the belief in myself that I was able to make sure that I got out of it. I wasn't being the leftover person that didn't know what to do in a certain situation where, let's say, your life is in danger. And it's something that after the episode really changed me quite a lot, because I had this thorough belief in myself that I knew sort of how to react instinctively in a very serious situation that could mean life or death. And after that, I don't remember a single day where I spent time being sad or angry at stuff that really didn't matter in the long term. Like, I would wake up every day and just be blessed, just be happy. And yeah. And I think that's what probably people see on an everyday basis, is this happiness that this really detrimental experience in itself, has brought me. And it is something that I don't usually talk to people about, I think it's because it's not something that is hurting me mentally. Like, I'm not struggling with this episode in my life, so it's not something that I'm struggling to talk about anymore, at least. And so I think it's cool for people to know that, you don't have to go through a shitty experience as I was doing. But you just have to make sure that you appreciate just every day.
All the good things.
Yeah, exactly. Because a freak moment that you don't necessarily expect or you've put yourself into can have a huge outcome. And if you just make sure that you're appreciative and you don't let small things get to you that don't even matter, that we've also talked about a bit in the podcast, you'll just be a more happy person. And for me, this episode was really it was changing in a bit of a way for me. But to be honest, only for the better. So that was a pretty deep answer for the first question there. We fed it right into it.
Do you think other people would have reacted differently to that?
I don't know exactly how other people would react, and I think other people don't know how they would react either.
Mm.
And I am just pleased, happy, and thankful to know that the way I reacted is also sort of a reason why I was sitting here having a podcast,
Yeah.
which for me is a cool confirmation to have. It's something that's only given me strength. It's only given me a boost of character, I would say. And so, yeah, grateful for this very ungrateful experience. I don't know if you can say that.
I think you can. I think it's just seeing the best out of every experience that you kind of endure, every experience that you go through.
It's true.
So no matter how tough the experience is, it really kind of gets to shape you in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And if you only kind of take the benefits out of it, kind of the same way you kind of took it,
Yeah.
I feel like you can either see the glass half full or the glass half empty. And that would be a situation where a lot of people would see it as a glass half empty.
Yeah, you're right.
But you kind of changed it around the way that you just see it as it being a confirmation for yourself that you managed to make a terrible situation. I don't want to say a good situation, but you managed to react in a way that you could confirm yourself that you know that your instinct has the right actions.
Yeah, and for that, I don't think you cannot wish yourself in a situation as such. It's like horrific scenes that obviously also quite annoyed me a little bit. Because like your mind wants to put frame by frame what's happened constantly after the episode, so you're constantly being reminded of an episode that you would like to, let's say, erase from your memory. But the moment where I started working with it and accepting it and really like just appreciating more the fact of how it went and the way that it didn't go. And that's really, I think, honestly, if I have to be really honest, that's probably where I find on a day-to-day basis my real happiness is. It's just appreciation from this freak moment. I think it's 6 years ago or something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then now that you appreciate every day to the fullest, do you have any physical targets or events that you'd like to achieve in the future?
Very cool. I would maybe differentiate future with, let's say, short term.
Let's say short term. Let's say
short
the
term.
next
All right.
1 to 2 years.
All right, 1 to 2 years. The first nice target that I have is probably in 3 weeks' time. Actually, with you guys, we're running a Berlin half marathon. First week of April, and I'm pretty excited about that. Let's say I have a target to at least do my best time on a half marathon.
What's your current best time?
I think my current best time is probably like a 1:38 or something. But I would like to be down around 1 hour 30. 1 hour 30.
1:30.
Yeah, which is funny because about 4 years ago, I wouldn't even have been able to run what seemed to be a half a marathon at all. Like to be able to shape your physical being towards different physical challenges, mental challenges as well, is for me such a cool experience. So I would say that's the shortest term goal and physically that I would have is this competition. If we were to go a little bit longer, a year or two, that's interesting. I would love to climb a mountain, like a real mountain. Not the 14 peaks, but maybe one of the 14 peaks.
What would be the first one you would consider?
To be honest, I don't know exactly the difficulty level, the different difficulties levels that there are on the mountains. I mean, you can obviously start with Mont Blanc in France. Could be fun.
Does that one count to the 14 peaks?
Absolutely not. It's probably a half. You don't even make it to base camp with the height of Mont Blanc.
Yeah, right.
Everest is quite a cliche to say. But I think you just meet such inspirational people and you find yourself. I know just from like alpine skiing, walking up mountains and stuff, it's something that really gives me sort of peace of mind whilst challenging me physically a lot. So going on proper expeditions, having maybe accumulated some experience in the field, becoming a, let's say, a mountaineer of some sort, is definitely a step-by-step process. But I think in the next year and a half, 2 years would be doable to do maybe like a more than a 7,000 meter high mountain. I would love that.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
So then, what do you think is currently your biggest achievement?
That's cool. That is a cool question. My current biggest achievement. I think I've been pretty proud of the transition that I've made. I don't know if we're gonna talk about sport today, because I obviously have no influence of where we're necessarily going. But I think in sport I was pretty proud, or I am pretty proud of the transition I was able to make from a full-time swimmer to trying to become sort of a racing driver, which is when I was talking with people about it, they would always be like, "So you've done go-karting maybe your whole childhood, or like why racing?" It's like, no, I just had this very rare opportunity, and I thought I had to grab it, and I did, and I spent lots of time doing so, and it was weird going out of the swimming pool and into a race car, but it's something that I put all my effort, all my time into, and was really happy to succeed in the first year of doing it. Being able to do very well was for me probably the biggest achievement or acknowledgement of myself, knowing that I can take what I've spent years creating for myself, the craft from swimming, and apply it to something completely different. This is probably the biggest achievement. And now applying it also to running, applying it to staying in shape in the gym. This is probably the achievement that I'm most proud of. It's not necessarily something specific, but it's something I use every day.
Could you define it a bit more? What that craft is, what you kind of really, the strength or the determination you got through the swimming that really made you who you are now?
Definitely. I mean, I'll need to go a little bit back in time, please. And take you through the journey of my swimming career, which has been my life.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the pool, and spent my entire youth throughout preschool, middle school, high school, and before going to the university a little bit as well. So I think at the age of 21, I sort of jumped out of the pool. But I've spent the last maybe 7 or 8 years with full-time commitment to swimming.
When you started swimming, was swimming like one of the end goals?
It's funny because actually I remember starting swimming. It was something that I used to do because my cousin was doing it, and my parents obviously wanted me to learn how to swim. But my cousin was doing it in this small town, quite far away from where we lived. And I had to go to the same team because that was the one day during the whole week where my family would be with my cousin's family. My mom's sisters, kids, obviously. And so we would go every Friday. I remember practice was every Friday. I would go to practice every Friday. I would hate it. It would be cold. But I would be pretty good at it. Like I would do pretty well. And after practice, I would have some candy in the little candy store outside the swimming pool, and then go straight to their place for dinner, which was the best thing ever. It's always the best thing to hang out with my cousins, and had a really great time. So that's basically where I started it. It was a small swimming club called A6, and I spent a few years there. I recall that I was really against using like proper swimmer. I was always the guy in board shorts, like the board short swimmer. Yeah. And then when one of the swimmers from the older team, he came and said like, "You do know that if you put on like proper swimwear, you can really swim faster, right?" It's like, I don't care how I'm gonna swim faster,
as long as I look cool.
I just need to look cool when I go in the pool. I just need to look apart. It's like, all right, fair enough. Then at a certain point in time, it was time to move up to the next team, the first, let's say, competitive team. And there it was sort of not a necessity or a requirement, but you would be absolutely an idiot to look like if you were shown up in board shorts as practice. So at the time I had to make the transition. Okay, I gotta buy myself some proper swimwear, and did that and started swimming competitively at probably like 10 years old, 11 maybe. And swam 1 or 2 years in that club, and didn't enjoy it too much, to be honest. I remember always the drive there from school. I'd fall asleep in the car. It would be like 45-minute drive. I would get there. I'd be like, can't be asked to get in the water now for a 1.5, 2 hour practice with these kids that are just faster than I. And so I had to make a change. I had to change my swimming club at that time to something that was a bit closer, which is ultimately where I spent the next 8 years probably swimming.
But did you make that change yourself? Did you know that you had to make that change, or did someone say like, right, then you need to?
Maybe my father probably would have pushed me a little bit to be like, listen, it's not really sustainable that we're gonna drive this maybe 2, 3 at the time, maybe 4 times before, the actual training amount started to increase, and I had just had to realize that. But it's never nice when you have some friends, you have to leave those and you have to go somewhere else. But it was necessary.
Was there ever a point in that point, because you said you didn't enjoy it? Was there ever a point you wanted to do something else besides that?
I was doing lots of sport, actually. I've always been very sportive. I was probably playing football 2, 3 times a week as well at the time. I was dancing maybe 4 times a week, actually, also. I was doing sailing with my cousin at the time. I was doing karate. And all of these sports were doing at the same time. And it was quite time consuming, let's say, for a 12-year-old to be doing all of this.
But what made swimming then really stick out and last?
It's funny because I remember probably I had to choose one sport out. Like I had to get rid of one sport at a time. And I think the first one was probably sailing that I took out because it wasn't really my thing. Not that I wasn't good at it. My cousin and I would always go out in the water, just flip the boat and be like, all right, let's play Jack Sparrow and try to get this boat back in port now. So we weren't really sailing. We were never competing or anything. Dancing, I was the only guy in a girl team of probably 12, which would have seemed great at the time. But they were just, let's say, maybe one level higher than me. So whenever they would go to compete, it would always be this little bit weird thing that they would be super synchronized in a way. And me as a younger kid at the time, probably 3, 4 years younger than these girls, I wasn't able to, let's say, to elevate the group with my dancing. So I skipped the dancing as well. But I actually danced for quite a few years with lots of pleasure. MTV, breakdance, hip hop as well, and had lots of fun with it. Then
amazing.
Skip that. Karate was short as well. I got to the orange belt, not a long time. And then football. But football was the thing that all my friends from my class were doing football. We're always in the same team, just close to school. So it was the thing that I was looking forward for, the social aspect. And anyone that know me do know that my feet aren't put properly in for football. And so that's also the reason why, having never scored a goal in my career, I had to cancel that. So at the time I was left with swimming, man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So then how often were you training when you made that transition to really investing a lot of time into the pool?
I think the transition was really fluid at the time. It wasn't that I was, because actually my training volume was going down as I quit some of the other sports that was taking up a lot of my time, freed up some time for me as well. So at the time I was probably swimming maybe 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow.
And when I moved to the club, Sigma Swim, which I swam in for many years after, and I had a great time with it, absolutely great time. Problem was I wasn't really too keen on practice always. It was always a bit of a challenge for me to go to practice. Other times I would really love it. It'd be great. I remember I was swimming with these 4 or 5 guys. We would have a great team. Then once per week, we would have the 3 clubs at the time that connected the whole Sigma Swim. So it would be lots of swimmers in the pool, lots of swimmers. If we were used to being 3 or 4 in a lane, we're now like 10 in a lane. There's lots of swimmers in the water. And so I'd hate to go to these practices. And I know we shouldn't say hate on our podcast, but I'll tell you, I absolutely hated those trainings. And I also hated them because there was a different coach at the time. And the coach it's just a bit harder, you know? Wasn't necessarily caring for each swimmer the way that I was used to when we were just training in the smaller teams. Yet always having quite a lot of focus on me, telling me like, you're not good enough at stretching, you're not good enough at swimming crawl, you're not good enough at swimming breaststroke. This I heard my entire life, by the way. You're not good enough at breaststroke. Never got good at it anyway, but that's okay. And so I spent lots of time just battling with this. I remember my parents would be like, you gotta go to this practice because you don't want to go. That's why you gotta go. And that is something that actually shaped me all the way from back then, because it's something that even to this day is really something that I try to use. Is that if there's something that I genuinely feel, don't want to do that, I know it's going to be good for me, so I'll do it. And I mean, we can continue down the path of the swimming.
Please go on. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So at the time, I'm probably like 14, sort of end last years of preschool or middle school. I don't know what you call it in different countries. And there's a transition where you go to high school, at least in Denmark, at around 14, 15, some are 15 years old. And I had to make a choice there also. Again, do I continue full on swimming? At the time, I had the level to apply for what's called like a Team Denmark scholarship. Is not the right thing because you weren't paying, but it would give you some more free time. It would give you some more availability when you wanted to take your classes. You could eat in class, stuff like this. And I applied for this. And I got into this high school that was also quite a long way from not quite a long, maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes from my home. But it would mean that I could go to morning practice and I go straight to school and I go straight to afternoon or evening practice and then go home. So I didn't always need to go home in between. And that was really one of the reasons why I chose that place. And all my teammates went to the same high school. So it was a party, absolute party there.
Amazing.
I felt finally I can go to a place where I know people when I start. That was always a thing for me, that I never really knew a lot of people around. And so it was really good for me, really good, the high school there. And my swimming was taking off a little bit there. I was doing better and better and better. I spent a lot of time on it. The volume was increasing at the time, maybe to like 7-8 times a week. We're having 2 strength sessions as well. So at this time, the volume was pretty significant when you're doing high school on the side as well.
Did it ever get to the point where you actually started enjoying it now?
Absolutely. This was my thing. I really enjoyed practice. Practice was my off time. I felt when I was in practice, I was free. I was just relaxed. My mind was totally calm. If I had a long day in school, it would be the time where I could really, really thoroughly relax. But I had a problem at that time, I remember, that I didn't like to compete too much. And so you're putting in hours and hours and hours in the pool, but you're doing it, or I was doing it, to be better at competition, which I didn't really like doing. Usually it's the other way around, because the hard work is really the training part, right? That's where you put it all 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours a day. Competition is like, for me, it was a minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes of work, and then you're out like that. And for some reason, I didn't like the competitive aspect during high school. So I was really, really good in practice, actually. And I had this really strong will to do extremely well 100% of the trainings during the week. Like some would have these peaks, they would do extremely well Monday, then Tuesday they would really be bad. Wednesday they would have like this huge fire again. Thursday sort of mediocre. Friday, big fall before the huge set, which would always arrive on Saturdays, where I'd have to get all out. And they would be, sky high again. And for me, it was always a challenge to keep it stable, make sure that I perform every time, make sure that I perform good every time, and that I never have these falls. And thinking back now, I do not recall actually ever having such a fall where I allowed myself to be not the best version of myself, where I allowed myself to be, in my mind, mediocre, or like pitying myself a little bit.
Just being average.
Exactly. Never allowed that to happen. And it really cost me a little bit of issues as well in practice sometimes, because I would be pretty pissed at people who I could tell were giving half efforts to
Yeah.
to outwork me at a later time during the week. And this really became something that I'm bringing. Maybe you can vouch for that as well, is that I never really have these moments of training where I drop significantly.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I remember every time we go to a run and we say, "All right, we're gonna do sexy pace today." It never ends up being sexy pace.
Never
it ends
ends up
up
being sexy
us
pace,
being
mate.
extremely fast again.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I really take pride in that to set the baseline. The baseline is not just the baseline down here. The baseline is like above average, absolutely above average.
Set a performance baseline.
That is some of the craft that I wanted, that has shaped me. It was during high school, these years where it was really busy with school. It was really busy with swimming. I was doing well in competition, didn't like it too much. Then I had about 2 years, sort of, on my last year of high school, because I had 4 years instead of 3, because of this Team Denmark arrangement. They could move some classes around. The 4th year, I was really loving competition, in fact, and won lots of Danish championships during the junior years, which I'm still really proud of. And then after high school, graduating, 19, probably 20 years old at the time. No, 19, I think. And then swam also at 20, swam at 21. And the first year there, I was like, great. I don't have school now. I have 100% time to be focused on swimming. This is going to be the best year of my career. It's going to be awesome. So you go about and I have these 10 trainings a week in the water. I have these 4 strength trainings a week besides the water training. And it's really a lot. But it's not more necessarily than what I was doing at the end of high school. But for some reason, having only this in my, let's say, my life at the time, it was becoming so monotone that I started to dislike it, actually. Still doing great in competition, but I started not putting 102, 103, 104, 5% when I needed to do so.
Why do you think was that?
I think it was due to the monotoneness of it. The fact that when I woke up in the morning, I could see my whole day laid out in front of me.
So there was no change in it whatsoever.
There was no change, man. And it became sort of a prison, my own little prison, that I knew I have every opportunity to do well at every practice, because it's all I'm doing. Like, it's all I'm doing. If I cannot be good at practice, then what am I good at during the day? Why am I doing it like this? And it started bothering me quite a lot. And at the end of that season, I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta go travel or something. And my good friend Nikolai and I, we went on this 3-4 months, probably 4 months of traveling around the world. It was so cool. We were vlogging the whole thing. It was such a mission, bringing a camera everywhere. Maybe some of you have seen it. I found lots of pleasure in it. And once again, the same thing applied, that I had to make sure that every day wasn't below average. Yeah, exactly. So that meant, Nikolai can vouch for this, lots of training, meant editing at very late hours. It meant if we're setting a goal of vlogging every day, every second day, it has to be done. Like, there is no compromise here.
No excuses.
There's 0 excuses, mate. And we managed that. It was great. Had such a great time. Tired after the traveling. Got home and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to spend this time in the pool anymore. And then, like, this can get pretty deep. Do you mind if we take the minute just to
Go
talk
for
about
it, please.
Okay, because I'm actually following a great path here, I feel. I got home and I had to ask myself at the time, do I get back in the pool full time, or do I figure out something else to do? And why am I spending this time in the pool if I'm not 100% into it? Why is it that I wake up every morning 4:45, 5 days a week, and just, get in that cold water? Why is it that I'm doing this? And in swimming, it's always been this, let's say, not common goal, but it's something that everyone acknowledges, is something that everyone realizes, that if you go to the Olympics as a swimmer, you're doing really great. It's not easy to go to the Olympics. I've had teammates that have gone. I'm extremely happy for them. They've done incredibly well. And for me, it was at the time also, a thing. I wanted to go to the Olympics. But I had to now sit down with myself and be honest. Am I going to make this goal? Or am I not going to make this goal? And is this goal, in fact, a reflection of what I want? Or what I came to find out, is it something I'm doing because of the environment that I'm in and the fact that I know it's such an acknowledging thing to make, that I need to put the effort and time in the pool to make this at a certain point of time? And I just came to the realization I was doing this for the wrong reasons. I was spending the time in the pool trying to go to the Olympics because I wanted acknowledgement from others. I wanted to be able to say, hey, look, I have, the rings on my arm. That's massage today, guys. I wasn't abused or anything. And I was like, if that's why I'm spending time in the pool, it's the wrong reasons. Like, it cannot be for the future acknowledgement of some people to say, I was at the Olympics, I was doing this in my swimming and stuff. I know what I did in my swimming. I know what I didn't do in my swimming. But I also know what it gave me. And I think that moment was so crucial for me to realize I was doing it for someone else than myself. And from that time, I got out of the pool. And I didn't look back into the pool for the training of it again.
Amazing.
And that's the transition that goes into the racing. Because being a very active person and being really always trying to challenge myself in new ways, I had this... that's a very long story, but let's make it a bit shorter of how I got into the racing. I had this opportunity with this team in Denmark to race a season with them in what's called Ferrari Challenge. And the moment I was, let's say, into that idea, I was 100% into it.
There was no turning back.
No turning back, mate, because this is not just swimming. Here you have to be ready in every way that you possibly can to do well, but also to be safe. And so I spent a lot of time, having never done any racing or anything before in my life, to make sure that the moment that I started getting in a car, I was as ready as I could possibly be. So I started working out like crazy. And I spent hours on end on a simulator. So many hours on a simulator, having not really done racing before that. Time comes and there's first season of this championship starts, and I get in the series and I do quite well. I prepared myself well, and I know mentally I am prepared. I'm prepared to apply the things that I used in swimming, the way to prepare myself for competition mentally, physically, like nutrition, training, tapering, stuff like this. And I was having such a good time trying to now adapt it into something that was completely different, right? So I knew what I was supposed to do with swimming. I knew how my week up to competition was going to look. But how am I going to adapt it to something that is going to be a very, very different physical activity? Mental activity takes 100% of your focus, like a little clip of your focus, and you're going to be in the barrier.
You're in the wall, yeah.
You don't just touch your finger on the lane rope or you accidentally hit the wall in the wrong way. Here you're in a wall and it's like, it's not good. It's not good. So I made it really my mission to do all 15 races of the season and make sure that I did the best I could. Every time, not below average. It meant that I never really had a DNF. I never did not finish a race. It also meant that I spent almost all of the races. This is in the amateur series. That is also why it's possible. Being a little bit, let's say, not they weren't pro drivers, the ones I was driving against necessarily. But I was also at the pace of the pro drivers at some points. in my rookie season there. But I was doing quite a few podiums. I was just gaining confidence, so much confidence. It was super, super cool to experience. And it all came to be that at the end of the season, I was able to win the European title of this championship, which for me was...
It's a big thing for
It
the
was
very
huge.
first season.
It was huge, mate, because I knew what I had gone through. I knew it wasn't the 15 races that was necessarily... Obviously, it's the points that you get from the races, right? But I knew within myself that the time I spent in the last many years with swimming, with everything I'd done, was the reason why I was able to perform the way I did for the first season in something that I genuinely didn't have any idea of what I was doing.
I mean, I remember at one of your races, I was talking to Stefano, and he was telling me that the reason you're performing the way you're performing is because you were treating the amateur races as if they were pro races.
Wow.
And you were training like a professional. You were preparing yourself like a professional, which I thought as like a outstanding person. I couldn't really tell the difference I could tell the difference between people that were preparing themselves, people that weren't preparing themselves. And I could tell a difference between people that were kind of just walking around with a big old belly, or people that were before the races practicing their reflexes and so on and so forth. And you were doing all of that. And I think that was probably also a big thing. Or what do you think? Do you think that really had a big influence on your first season?
I think because my mentality was like, I'm a pro racer now. Like, I need to do what the pros are doing. I need to know what are the specific things you can do to prepare yourself for a race. What are the things that you can do to prepare your eyes, your reflexes, your body to be relaxed, but your mind to be super sharp? What are the things I can do? So I tried to learn as much. And part of the reason why I was able to do so well was the guy that was coaching me on the side was Stefano Guy. This huge shout out to the guy that we had an amazing relationship during the both season that I was doing the racing. And he helped me a lot to gain the abilities behind the wheel, obviously, but also, let's say, to learn about the whole industry, to learn about the whole race weekend, to learn about racecraft, to learn about preparations. This is what he helped me with a lot. And it's, once again, surrounding yourself with the right people, right? But you still got to connect with them. And I think the reason why Stefano and I were connecting so well was that he was obviously doing this professionally, helping me, but I was trying to be the professional also on the other side, giving him as much to work with as possible. You know, you can have someone that just do it, that wants to drive cars fast because it's cool, or you want them to because they want to grow, or because they want to be the fastest. And for me, that was the case, the second one. And it's really cool that you've talked with Stefano back then at the first season there, because it's I really do miss those times, and it was such a cool experience. And because we won the first season together, me and him, well, I was driving, but it was our effort as a team. And the second season, I was now racing in the Pro Series of the championship. And that was obviously a step up, because now I needed to make sure that I was so far in front of the amateurs. We call them amateurs because it's you have different levels of drivers, right? But you also have some really fast drivers. And I had to make this mental step of saying, okay, I'm not necessarily going to win races now, but I'm going to need to make sure that I still perform at my very, very best every time, to allow myself the possibility to maybe get a podium or maybe get a race win or something like this. Cool thing is, the last race I had on my first season, I managed to win with all the pros and all the AMs in the field. So it was me and like 25 cars behind. Incredible feeling. I was just
amazing,
on fire. It was such a cool experience. That's something I will never forget. And so I came into the second season. I was like, God, I need to figure out what I was doing there and apply it now. Really hard mission. To see that sometimes you weren't driving as fast as you weren't doing exactly what you needed to do, and just going back, analyzing the things. This is what came from swimming as well. Sometimes I would be practicing. I knew my practice had been great. I knew which times I needed to do. I'd done them, and now I was going to compete, and I needed to make this certain time, and I wasn't making it. Why is that? Had to go back to the drawing board. I had to figure out where in the training, where in the nutrition, where in this, where in that preparation did I go wrong? Like, how did I not manage these results? And it's something I applied so much in the racing, so much. I remember I have this simulator in my apartment actually, and I remember sitting here late hours screaming at myself for doing a silly little mistake that obviously here you can just restart, go back to the pit lane, you have a fresh car. But I know that one mistake could be the one mistake that was going to take me out of the race and stuff like this. And I would spend hours on that thing just being like so focused by myself in my apartment and just telling myself cannot make the mistake of losing focus. Because if you do that now, you can do it in the race car as well. And I was always going back to the drawing board, trying to figure out where it went wrong. And it's something that with this pro season, I ultimately ended up getting a podium actually in the last race weekend. And this was a huge thing for me. It was a massive thing that I fought the whole year to get. And even though it obviously wasn't as glamorous as the first season, which I've had, which meant lots of podiums, lots of trophies, this one meant for me more than not necessarily all of the previous one, but most of it. Because I knew what it meant to get there. I knew what I had to get through. I had to make sure that I was not allowing myself to fall down. I wasn't allowing myself to pity myself. I just needed to, every time, get a little bit better, small steps. Once again, with the help of Stefano, really guiding me, telling me the exact things I needed to know by the radio, during the race, something like this. But it's all the things behind the scenes that I had to work with myself, which I took so many things from swimming, the craft, the way that I take it serious, the way that I spend a lot of time on trying to put myself in the best position to succeed. It is really something that I used so much in the racing. And now you can sort of understand, let's say, the trophy answer, which I gave previously. And the biggest trophy is this ability, which I've created myself. And now I can apply it to absolutely anything.
Just to outperform everything. Just to keep a high standard.
Yeah, because, you cannot, there will always be someone better.
Yeah.
There will always be someone who will, be maybe more talented, have more time, more this, more that, blah, blah, blah.
But then is that one time, is it that a singular time where he's quicker and he's not doing anything before that, or is that a consistent being better?
Exactly. It's not necessarily the consistency being better. And that's why I feel I can outperform many. It is the consistency to keep it going, absolutely. The resilience, so to speak. And that is the biggest trophy. And that is my career of swimming as well a bit. And that is my bit of my racing career. And now that I believe that was a long answer to your question. I don't remember what the question was. But now we know a little bit there. So let's continue.
So if we stay on the racing topic, we had a very interesting question from a good listener of ours. The question is, would you race Edoardo Rovelli and who would win?
Oh my days. I would absolutely win. 100% sure. Not on motorcycles, but in cars 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Then we had another question from someone you have actually raced against. And it was very much directed at the second post on the Lobster Fight.
Yeah.
Is Fred even a real captain?
Oh, all right. From a competitive mind, that's so interesting. You don't have to say it with this. That's cool. I do call myself a captain, absolutely, mate. Yeah. I do not have the formal paper that says I'm a captain. Surely not. You can vouch for that. But if anyone has spent time with me on a boat, they would know that I'm a damn good, great captain. Yeah. I'm a great captain.
I can vouch for that.
Thanks, mate.
All right. So let's come to the next one. Why did you choose living in Monaco? And did you consider living elsewhere before choosing here?
Wow, great question. Actually, here I have to give all the credit to Mr. Chandler. The beginning credits goes very much to Mr. Chandler because this is a funny story, guys. was in a point in time where I was gonna apply for university, but I didn't really want to go to the university in Copenhagen. I knew all the people that were going there. I knew exactly what it would mean to me. And so this crazy guy sitting across me right here, he had known me for probably, what did he know me for 2 years or something, a year and a half.
Year and a half, and we spent about a week together,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, not a lot, but it was
Maybe
enough.
a week and a half.
A week and a half. But it was enough for you to know that if there was one person you could text with the text saying, I got into the International University of Monaco, here's my application form, I am like accepted into it, and be maybe getting the person to do the same, it would be me. So you sent that picture to me, and I was like,
Out of nowhere as well.
that sounds bloody awesome. That sounds bloody awesome. And before I knew it, I'd done the application as well, and was accepted as well through interview. And I was like, well, I guess it's Monaco then. So I didn't really think of other places because this was really such a quick decision that turned into being a reality. So I never really got to think of all the way other places. Really happy with how it turned out though.
Amazing. Do you have anything where you kind of, now looking after having finished university, is there some other place you would like to go to live somewhere else potentially?
Very cool. Very cool.
Or do you think this is the...
We always say, I think the friends around here, that is such a nice base to have Monaco. It's such a cool, convenient place if you're traveling around. It's very easy to get in and out of. It's such a little... It is a bit of a bubble here, but it's such a... It's an
easy bubble to get out of as well, though.
Exactly, totally. And it's so... For me, it's already so homely whenever I get back to it.
Yeah.
I know you have the same feeling that, you
Absolutely.
know, you just cruise along the coast, you get into the place here, and you're like, wow,
I'm very lucky to live here.
this feels right. This feels right. So if I had to choose somewhere else to live, I would need some more time to figure it out, to be honest. I'm always loving to travel, so I'm very keen to go everywhere. But as a base, I'm really happy here.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
cool.
agree with that. Then, a very interesting question, or I'd be very curious to hear your answer. So, imagine yourself, you have to live on an island for the rest of your life. Right. You can bring 3 people, famous or historic characters, with you. Who would you bring?
That's great. That's really great.
They can be dead or alive. It doesn't matter.
The first thing that comes to mind right here is a fictive character, and writing his name down right here, just to keep it in mind. I need to think of a second one here. The first one I put down, guys, is Jack Sparrow. Because if you watch Pirates of the Caribbean, you know he knows how to get off the island, so I don't have to spend the rest of my life there. But I think he's also probably pretty funny character to hang around. I'm just thinking about this whole, let's say, legal case against Johnny Depp. It's like, I got a job. Making pints. No, so okay, so that's one. I would put Jack Sparrow. Then I would probably get Bruno Mars or Michael Jackson.
Oh.
For the vibes.
The dancing, the grooves.
Exactly. I think definitely I would probably take Bruno Mars because I just think it's absolute vibes. And then third one, I would probably be curious to bring... These are 2 men. I need to come up with a woman. God damn.
Who's your celebrity crush? Maybe that could be it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm not sure that would be applicable for this. I don't really feel like a 16-year-old having a celebrity crush. Oh, damn. This is bad. This is really bad. Come on. It's totally like the whole... It's just gone down, mate. The curtains have gone down. They've gone down. Come on. Think a little bit here. Come on. literally cannot come up with a third person, which is pretty horrendous.
What would that third person? What kind of value would that third person provide?
Definitely food.
Food.
I think that would be reasonable.
There you go. Who's
Get
someone?
an absolute. Yes, there it is. I would get Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay.
Oh no! I'm gonna actually raise that. We're gonna get all the girls out of here. I want Bear Grylls. I want to be with Bear Grylls. Because if they're in a meal, you can always piss in a cup and drink your own piss.
That was when I was trying to answer that question myself. That was the first name that popped in my head. Bear Grylls.
Oh really? I'm glad.
And I was
found
asking myself, like, why would I choose that one? I was like, right, he doesn't really make great food, does he?
But he doesn't make food, mate.
Exactly.
It does
He will
make
keep
food.
you nourished no matter how bad it is.
Exactly. So these are my three. It would be a very manly island. Sadly. It's okay.
You can always have great times with the boys.
I mean, this would absolutely be a party, I'm sure. I can only see this. I'm just imagining these different Bear Grylls sketches
There's also
that
three
are
completely different individuals. Vastly different characters.
different characters, yeah. But it's a character-full island, which is what we care about.
Exactly.
That's the answer right there.
Amazing. Right then, so those are three guys right there. Let's go to three other guys. So you grew up with three brothers.
Yes.
The bond you guys have is from me and all our friends that surround you guys is an amazing bond. Like, it feels like you guys are very, very close, but close between every single one. And I know a lot of families oftentimes go head against head, and you see fights between siblings and so on and so forth. And the way it seems like you guys never really had that, at least from the outside perspective. How did you guys actually come to be that close, or have such a good relationship with one another?
That's a cool question. I'm very curious who might have asked that question. Cannot come up with that. But I will definitely answer the question. I do have three brothers, Matthias, Sepp, and Jonas. And who am I all very close to? You're right. You're absolutely right. So the person asking the question they have some good insights there. So they see the reality. And I think the reality is, right, so we're separated. We're not 1 or 2 years separation. It's like, let's say we're 2 packs. So me and my brother, Jonas, we have 3 years in between us. And then the youngest one, they have 3 years in between them as well. So it's always been like 2 and 2, sort of. And don't get me wrong, there's absolutely been arguments, but not really from my side, to be honest.
Mm.
And I think probably that's why that there's never been like real, not issues, but real tension between us, is that I've always just been this chill about the brotherhood. Like, I've always nourished it, I think, or I'd like to think at least. But it's never been where I'm like, God, I'm annoyed with my brothers. Like, I cannot think of a single episode where that would be the case. Always absolutely just enjoyed the time with them. And obviously now, Jonas always also living here in Monaco. I get to spend lots of time with him, which I'm so happy with. It's really something that is giving me lots of pleasure, lots of joy. And the 2 younger ones still living back home in Denmark. Whenever I get to see them, it's such a pleasure. That's why then we had to share the 4x4x48. You also shared with them.
Yeah, that was a party.
For me, it was an incredible experience, to be honest. It was so cool to see them grow. It was so cool to see them thrive in this environment, which is, I mean, if you take a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old out of school back home to bring Friday, Saturday, Sunday to go to Monaco and not just want to lay on the beach, but let's say, not torture themselves, but I mean, it's not
torture themselves for every 4 hours.
Exactly, it's not a vacation, and thrive in it. It's something that cannot even fathom, to be honest. I cannot even think of myself at that age wanting to do something like that. And obviously, I like to tell myself that because I'm doing it, because Jonas is also doing it, they feel that they can do it as well. It's always been like that. If the oldest one can do it, then I can do it. If I'm the second, I can do it. I can do it if I'm the fourth. And so I would always just support that. So I would never be like, no, you cannot do that. Or if I can do this, you can't do it. It would always be me trying to help them also do what I'm doing. Having, 10 years in between me and the youngest, it's not always that. I mean, you can't go out and drive a car, but
Not yet.
not yet. But anything that has to do with sports, anything that has to do with school or anything like this, I think that we all just share this bond of helping each other, which is something that has made us very connected, very strong together, so that we never really have this situation where we're annoyed by each other. We never have this situation where we're going against each other, because there's no need for it. We all just enjoy the company of each other.
Would you say it's kind of constructive against one another that you experience when running up a hill against Sebo?
So that's a funny little story. I'll give that to Seb. He's the biggest soul taker of probably the four guys. I had this experience with my youngest brother 2 weeks ago. It was funny as hell. Funny as hell. We are doing this 10 kilometers run, and for me it's like, okay, I'm doing a 10K run, which I do basically every day, easy peasy. And I know Seb, he's not really keen on doing it, but he sees I'm doing it. So like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna join you. Tells me this story about Jonas. I'm sorry to sell you out here, brother. That he took Jonas's soul the previous week on the same run. He's be like, yeah, I beat this guy, this and out sprinted him, stuff like this. Seba plays lots of football, just to know, and so he's a fast runner. Not that all football players are fast runner. The guy works for it like crazy. Have to give him lots of credit for that, because
Runs to practice and back again.
I've never heard about a 14-year-old that runs to practice and does football training for an hour and a half, runs home again. It's just on a different dimension, which is incredible. Can't wait to see where it's going. But back to the run. We're doing this run, and my brother is half-stepping me the whole way. If you don't know what half-stepping is, it's probably the worst thing if you're running with someone. If you're here, the guy is always half a step in front of you. And it's something that if you don't care about it, it doesn't matter, because you're basically next to each other. But if you do care, mentally, you're always half a step behind. Meaning that you're basically behind the whole way, right? It's up and down a little bit. I'm trying to sprint down the hills. He's just following. Up the hills, I'm just trying to follow him. It's 2 lap rounds. On the second lap, there's uphill in the end. This uphill starts. This is a great story, actually. The uphill starts. I can see Seb, he's about to take my soul. He wants to win this. And I am aware that if it's a sprint, probably not going to win it, which is painful to say at 24, but that's the case. Starts going up. I keep following Seb. I'm like, all right, this guy's really going for it, so I'm going to go in front of him. I'm just going to go right in front of him, because then he cannot pass me. And then he's trying to pass me. And so he goes on the road. I go on the road in front of him. I go back on the gravel. I go back on the gravel. Go back on the road. I go back on the road. And like this, I'm just draining his energy of just going side to side, not allowing him to overtake me. At the very end, he puts in his sprint, and I just managed to just finish at the same time. No souls taken. But, he realized that flippin' hell, even if I'm faster, I might not win. I might not win this race that we're doing. And I tell him, we have another kilometer to do now. We're not done yet. So he's like, "Oh, you can't be real, mate. Like, we've just run 50 minutes. Like, we're done now. You said when we get home, we're done." I'm like, no, we said 10K. We have 9. I wear the watch. We have 9K. We need 1 more K. So we go down. We turn this road around. We come back. There's a very tiny uphill. Sip start putting in the sprint again. I'm like, is this guy serious? Is this guy serious right now? He's going to do this to me again. And I'm like, all right, great. I get up next to him, sort of, and he goes in front of me. I'm like, are you joking? I go on the road. The guy goes out in front of me on the road. I'm like, what is going on here? I start running as fast as I can on the gravel again. He goes up on the gravel. I'm like, boy, at this point, I don't know what to do, because, in fact, he's a faster runner. So at the moment that he's going to start sprinting, I'm just going to lose. And he starts sprinting, and I absolutely lose the run. I absolutely lose the run, mate. And my soul is gone, and there's nothing to do. But, this left me with such a proud feeling. Such a proud feeling that I can teach him in a way where I don't even need to explain anything. There were no words exchanged. And this is in 10 minutes that he managed to process what I was doing to him and apply it and use it against me and win. And this is something that I think is a lot in the brotherhood of just this invisible teaching that is showing how to do things, not necessarily preaching or telling you have to do like this or you have to not do like this, but just showing by doing, living by example, and then it's easier for at least the younger ones to apply. Let's say we're playing golf, it's easier for me to apply what they're doing because they're better than me, you know? Yeah. Football, they're much better than me with my career of 0 goals. I mean, they all played the attackers in cool clubs and semi-professionally. And so if wherever we play football, I'm absolutely far behind. And I think that's probably why we always have a good relationship, because there's this healthy competition, which I think many siblings may miss. Unhealthy competition they would have, where they always have to outshine each other or outperform each other, be like, I'm better than you at this, or like something like this. I can tell from my perspective only that I have none of this absolutely at all. I just want to see them do the absolute best they can, and if I can help them with any of it, it's 100% something I'm going to do.
Amazing.
So that's an answer to that question.
That's something a lot of people should take away from that.
They could.
Will they? That's another question.
You're right. It's difficult. You have to put your ego away. When I'm getting beaten by a 14-year-old in a run, which I'm doing every day, it's pretty hard on my ego, mate. Like, it really, it's like, and I had a massage after that. So I'm like, Sebo, I'm going to massage now, trying to battle my mental hardness that I've just experienced. You have to put your ego totally aside. Be like, if my brothers are doing well, I'm doing well as well.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for many.
It's a family thing. You got to just get better and better at it. All right. So this is a very interesting question. As the past few episodes we've been or especially the one with Andrea, we've been talking a lot about books. Yeah. So you can imagine who asked this question. What's the next book you want to read?
Oh, that's cool. And it's probably my good friend. Could be Andrea that's asked this question. Yeah. Could be Andrea that's asked this question. And now I'm going to be very exposed here on the podcast because I cannot remember the name of the book that Andrea told me to read, which is pretty bad. But it's one of his big suggestions.
What is it about?
The book is about how... It's called positioning, I think. No, targeting or positioning. It's basically how to target or position yourself or a brand or a business or something like this in a world where there's so many different brands and stuff around. And I can't remember if the book's called Targeting, Positioning, something like this. It's a book I would really, really like to read. He's talked a lot about it. It's opened his mind a lot to just how to stand out in a field of so many. Like, you need to figure out what's your thing that makes you stand out. Not necessarily just in business, but also as a person.
Really makes you shine.
Correct. So that's probably the book. And I'm very sorry, I'm guilty as charged, Andrea. I cannot remember. I wasn't listening properly, even though I was listening, but apparently it's gone past me. Sorry.
There we go. All right. How much of the world would you say you have seen? And which were the most interesting parts of places you've seen? And what can you take away from that of what the world is, more or less?
Wow, great question. The first thing that comes to mind, really, for me, I was this was during the travel with Nikolai. We were visiting Lofoten in Norway, northern part of Norway. It's like above the polar circle. It's really far up north, and it's this beautiful, beautiful nature. We saw the Aurelia Borealis. This green dancing sky. See, yeah, exactly.
Polar lights,
or what you call it. And that was an incredible experience. So raw up there. You see the way that people are living by the day, by the hour, by the minute. People are really present there because that's their life. I mean, in the end, they're living pretty damn far away from just about everything.
Yeah.
which we got to experience in full when our car broke down up there. But that's a whole different story. Anyway, that was a really cool place. Other than that, I would say Australia and diving at the Great Barrier Reef, and the experience it was realizing how absolutely dead most of it is. And it was really eye-opening to me to, you have this news, you have these let's just say information about how bad the situation of many of the oceans are. And this was really a waking up experience for me, going to a place which is so vibrant for life and just find very little life. And so that was probably one of the places that gave me the biggest feeling like, whew. Probably isn't happening. It's probably not like it used to be, And having said that, I probably have experienced a fraction of wherever you can go. I'm not extremely well traveled. I'd like to be more, in fact. But I guess there's a time for that. I'm 100% sure there's a time for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Europe, I've absolutely seen quite a bit of Europe. I've seen bits of Asia, been to many states in the US, been to Mexico, around, never been to South America, but love to go there. Canada, I've visited quite a lot. Never really been properly to Africa, which is definitely on my list. I would love to go to Antarctica, Greenland. Nice. Maybe we should do that.
Sign me up.
Would be cool to do an episode of the podcast in like these huge coats on ice. Imagine that. Just
on a little iceberg.
Yeah, with a little fishing rod fishing through the ice or something like that in Greenland. That's cool, man.
That'd be very cool. All right, next question. If there was an Olympics for everyday activities, what activity would you win the gold medal in?
What a great question. Damn. Being happy.
Being happy. There you go. Fantastic one. All right. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is something that I need to work on, for sure. Because, with things being your biggest fear, like, are we talking, spiders or heights or
like
something?
The thing
fear.
That genuinely you're worried, afraid, something that's kind of in the back of your head.
Yeah. I'm going to say that the biggest fear of me is not outliving my full potential. And that can sound a bit cliche. I think I'm gonna quote here a good idol of mine, David Goggins, again. It is, you want to be in your grave in many years and realize that you made more things happen than you were meant to do. You've outdone the potential.
You've outdone your own potential.
Outworked yourself in a way. And my biggest fear is not to do that.
Do you feel like you're already on that track?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would say the same about you, though.
That's cool, mate. That's really appreciative.
All right. To slowly finish it off, and to keep a couple more questions for round 2 of Ask Fred.
Yeah, okay.
What odd talent do you have that nobody knows about?
Wow. That's great. I have incredible OCD for cleaning things.
That's not an odd talent, mate.
It's a crazy odd talent, mate. I have really incredibly great organizational skills of putting things where they need to be put. But let me get a cooler talent, which I'm really great at. I cannot delete a pint really quickly if that's what you're thinking. I cannot, I cannot lick my elbow. I cannot get my feet behind my head. I have one. It's not really incredibly rare, but it is something that makes a lot of people look really, really stupid in public that I like to do. And it's making this sound. Are you ready, guys? 3, 2, 1. I'm going to do it again.
Amazing.
Try that at home. Try that at home. This is an odd talent, but it's, I would need to come up. Do you have anything in mind? Do you know a talent of mine that is odd that
I think I don't know actually, because the thing is, you have a lot of odd things about you, but not in a bad way. But
That's great,
the
mate.
thing is, we see them so frequently, or like I see them so frequently, they don't seem odd to me.
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't think there's anything really I could think of off the top of my head.
What that could be? That could be. No, honestly.
Well, then we'll finish it off on a different question.
Yeah, that's better. That's
We'll
better.
finish
I mean, you got the
Alright.
sound, guys, so that's really an odd talent.
exactly. So, final question.
Hit me.
You have a movie that is basically portrays your life.
Okay.
Who plays your character?
Is it my full life or my life until now?
Either or,
Mm.
you choose.
Okay, fair enough. Has to be a character, an actor
Has to be an
that
actor.
plays my life. That is back to the celebrities. I'm looking down on my drawing board here, and none of the three that I mentioned should absolutely play me. I must say I would love, obviously, a young Leonardo DiCaprio to play me.
Amazing.
You've
That
met.
could actually work as well. That
I
could.
think it could work in a cool way, not in the crazy way though. I think the guy, he definitely has some cool, crazy characters he's played. But I think honestly he could do a pretty good job. You've met the guy actually. You've met the guy. You know, couldn't you see him playing me?
I could actually. However, the thing is, I don't see you being him and old.
No.
Let's switch that around, because the thing is, I don't see you having a nice old dad bod
No.
running around
no,
Saint
you're
Tropez
right.
with a big old belly.
No, you're right. That wouldn't happen. So it would be a young Leonardo DiCaprio playing my life until now, let's say.
Yeah.
Moving on past now, it is incredibly difficult for me to say because obviously I don't exactly know where my life will take me. And so that is a little bit difficult. But if there's someone I would love to have play me, I would probably say Sean Connery would be great.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Great choice.
In his prime, non-smoking prime. I'm not sure that he ever did not smoke, but for me, he's such a cool character. He's such a good actor, I was gonna say, and I've always loved all the James Bond movies with Sean Connery. So for me, it would be a huge honor for him to portray me.
That worked very well.
Yeah. So now you know, guys, I'm a big James Bond fan of Sean Connery as well. Just answered another question there.
Fantastic. On that note, Lobsters. On that note, Fred.
Wow.
Thank you very much for opening up a little bit.
That is a pleasure.
I learned a couple new things I didn't even know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did.
That's so great, mate. That's so great. That's the cool thing, you know. Like, this is really also for me. It's every time you speak about yourself, you get to know yourself a little bit better, and you get to know also the thoughts that you might not necessarily have had before. Some of these questions have opened up my mind to think about new things in a different way than I've had previously. But I've just tried to give a very filterless explanation of who I am, why I am the way I am, and trying to answer these questions as truthfully as I possibly can. And I think, actually for me, I feel now it's really rewarding in the sense that when you talk about it, when you're not forced to talk about it, but when you're here in front of the microphone, we're having this chat, you have to have to make the connections. You have to make the connections of the different things in your life that explains or that can answer some of these questions. And some of the times it will need to take you back. I've just experienced that. It will need to take you a little bit back. You don't think about that on your everyday basis. You don't think of that on your everyday basis.
The way kind of every single action you take somewhere far, far back where you don't even think about making a certain choice has an effect on more or less the rest of your entire life.
Yeah. And let that not be an invite not to take any decisions, guys, but more to be like inviting every opportunity that arrives.
Take every opportunity.
I agree, mate. And I think with those words, we can conclude what is the 11th episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for carefully asking me these questions, mate. Thanks for putting them together in a nice, I think, chronological way. We've gone quite wide on the topics, but I feel that we've gotten cool insights.
I think we got a great insight on you, sir.
Yeah, very cool.
And now to see what more comes out of you.
Exactly.
Let's dig in deeper. So now we have a base for everyone to.
For me, I actually feel greater now because obviously now we can also talk on the podcast about more, how do you say, things that I don't need to go back and explain.
Yeah.
In a way, now it's all out there. It's it's not all out there. We haven't gone through my entire life, but we've gone through these questions, and which I think are quite a significant and very determining part of why we're sitting here having this conversation, and the way we're having this conversation is very much biased throughout these experiences. And so I'm just very curious also to obviously learn about you, due to the fact that we've known each other for like 5 years, but we haven't known each other before that.
Yeah.
So probably some of the things that I've said today are so new from you as well. And I'm really excited to have that same experience.
I'm very keen. Let's see how it goes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much for listening, and see you next week on
Ciao.
Lobster Fight.